This lesson is about ratios and proportions. The goal is to write ratios and solve proportions. The standard is geometry, similarity, right triangles, and trig, number 5. Okay, what I want you to understand by the end of this lesson is that you can write a ratio to compare two quantities. And that's all a ratio is a comparison of two quantities, and it's compared by division. So we can write a ratio in 3 different ways. We can write it in a fraction, a over b. We can write it as a colon b, or we can write it as a and the word 2b. And we usually express a and b in the same unit, and we write it in simplest forms. So most of the time a ratio you will see written as a fraction in lowest terms or in simplest forms. So what you need to understand is that a ratio is a fraction and a proportion is 2 equal ratios. And we're going to look at how to find out if they are equal or not, and how to solve if there's a number missing. All right, what I need you to do right now is at the top of your notes, write where you are as far as understanding about writing and solving ratios, writing and solving proportions. 1, you don't get it. 2, you sort of get it. 3, you understand how to do it. And 4, you could teach somebody how to do it. All right, here are your key concepts for or properties of proportions. They're also in your notes. You can refer back to these anytime. Just remember here that the letters A, B, C, and D, they're not equal to 0. So our first property, A over B equals C over D, is equivalent to B over A equals D over C. And all we do there is we write the reciprocal of each ratio, and they're still the same. The second property would be the same if I switch the means. So notice I have 2/3 equals 4/6. If I take and I switch the 3/4, I have 2/4 equals 3/6. And we're going to talk about means here in just a second. And the final one is AB equals CD is the same thing if I add the denominator to the numerator. So if I have 2/3 equals 4/6, I can add 3 to the numerator over here, 6 to the numerator over here, and they are still equivalent. So we're going to take a look at how this works, how to solve for a missing number in just a second. All right, we're going to take a look at a couple things here. We're going to look at extremes and means. And what I want you to understand is, and you probably did this in middle school, is when you had a missing number in a proportion, you multiplied or cross-multiplied and then divided. So it really doesn't matter whether the extremes are here or here, but you multiply the extremes and you divide by the mean. And here's a cute little example here. Here are the means. We're going to multiply the means and then divide by an extreme. And if you have a proportion, if you multiply the extremes and multiply the means, you get the same number. Now that's how you write them out if you have two equivalent fractions. This is what you're going to see in the lesson. The extremes are on the outside, the means are on the inside. So in fractions you would multiply the extremes, divide by the mean, or multiply the means, divide by the extreme. Same thing if you have it set up like this. Multiply the extremes, divide by the mean, or multiply the means and divide by an extreme. It depends on what number is missing. We're going to take a look at some examples. All right, here's my first one, and the question is asked, are these ratios equivalent? So I have 132 to 22 and 427 to 69. So I'm going to multiply the extremes together, and then I'm going to multiply the means together and see if I get the same number. So let's start with the extremes, 132 times 69. When I multiply them together, 132 times 69, I get 9108. And now I'm going to multiply 22 times 427 and see if I get the same number. When I multiply them together, I get 9394. So, no, they are not equivalent. Here's your first practice problem. Do these ratios form a proportion? 178 to 89 and 61 to 32. This one wants me to fill in the missing number to complete the proportion. There's my means. My extremes. There's my means. Since I'm missing an extreme, I will multiply my means and then divide by the extreme. So I'm going to take 134 times 981 and then divide it by 327. That will give me the missing number. When I do that, I get 402. So 402 is the missing number. Here's practice problem 2. Fill in the missing number to complete the proportion. Again, I'm asked to fill in the missing number to complete the proportion. This time, my numbers are like fractions. I'm going to cross multiply or multiply the extremes and then divide by the mean. So I'm going to multiply 728 times 96 and then divide it by 91 to get the missing number. And when I multiply and divide, I get 768. So the missing number is 768. Practice 3, solve for G. Now this problem may look kind of tough, but it's really not. We're only going to add one more simple step. But we're going to act like there's nothing but a letter there. So we are going to start out by multiplying 70 times 38 and divide it by 28. That gives us 95. Now I'm going to use the m plus 58 equals 95. And I'm just going to solve for m. So I'm going to subtract 58 from both sides, which leaves me m equals 37. So I have solved for m. Here's practice 4, solve for J. Alright, our next one is a word problem, which I know some of you hate, but I'm going to show you an easy way to solve this kind. It says Renato spent 6 minutes on the phone while routing 3 phone calls. If he routes 9 phone calls, how much time will Renato have spent on the phone in total? And then assume the relationship is directly proportional. Alright, so let's take a look at this first sentence. We have minutes and we have phone calls. Alright, now we can make a proportion. We can make 2 equal fractions and we can cross multiply and divide. But I'm going to show you an easy way. In the next sentence, we have phone calls. So all I want you to do is take the 6 minutes from the first sentence times the 9 phone calls from the second sentence and divide by 3. When you do that, you're going to have 54 divided by 3, which is 18. So how much time will he have spent? He will have spent 18 minutes total. Now you can check that by taking 6 over 3, 6 minutes for 3 phone calls, and see if it compares to 18 minutes for 9. Multiply 18 times 3, which is 54. 6 times 9, which is 54. The extremes product is the same as the means product, which means they are proportional. 18 minutes is the right answer. Okay, you're going to do practice 5 and practice 6. They're both the same kind of word problems. Remember, look at what you have in the first sentence and compare it to what you have in the second sentence. Here's practice 5. Here's your last practice problem, practice 6. So how do you feel now about ratios and proportions? Would you write what number you are on the scale now on your notes? And you're going to go do your assignment. That's the end of this lesson. Bye.